Dr. Ayodele Oni is a partner and chairman of the Energy and Natural Resources Practice Group at Bloomsfield Law Practice. He has participated extensively in the power sector, deregulation and privatization transactions. He has played a huge role in the development of the partial risk guarantee for the gas sector and the development of the template gas sale and aggregation agreement for the sale of gas to the power sector. He is an author of 2 books, Understanding Petroleum, Oil and Gas Transactions, and Understanding Petroleum and Oil and Gas Transactions and the Nigerian Market. And the second book is The Nigerian Electricity Market. I want us to put our hands together. I want to hear your clap. I want us to put our hands together as we welcome Dr. Ayodele Oni. Let's put our hands together. Everybody on mute.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for having me. I've actually written 4 books. I think because the last 2 are the more popular ones. And because they are recent. My first 2 books were written in 2012 and 2013. Thank you very much. So what I want to try to do is to make it a practical session, to give you ideas, to tell you what I've seen in practice, to tell you some of the things I have done, some of the things people I've worked with have done. I've worked in maybe 4 of the top 6 firms. I worked in Templars, Alex, Ayodele, and BNI, where I stayed the longest. I think I was in BNI for almost 6 years. Okay, so I worked in those 4 firms. So I'd speak generally, then I'd look at things around what you should do whilst in school, before you get into a law firm. If you want to work with a leading firm, what you should do. If you want to work generally in law firms, what you should do. If you want to start your own practice, I'll give you ideas of what I think you should be looking at. So I'll just start by first speaking generally about thriving in your legal career. The law doesn't exist on its own. I always tell people that if you're going to be a good lawyer, you also need to know other things, other areas of life, other issues. You should be able to discuss politics. You should be able to know economics a bit, understand the economy. Because at times, in the process of having conversations with people, you build new clients. You get new relationships that may come in handy in the future. I have a former boss who's quite popular. I wouldn't just mention his name. I think he went somewhere. They were at a bar, and there was an argument, and he made very brilliant points. And one of the older people at the bar owned a thriving law firm. And the guy said, "Oh, you know what? I'd like you to work for me. Come resume on Monday or something." It was that simple. And from there, the guy grew. He worked in top one other top firm. And he's a key partner in that firm today. And I dare say he's probably a multimillionaire in USD. So at times, it's those steps, it's those conversations. When people say that you are brilliant, they just tell you, come and join me. Or, oh, you made a very brilliant point. Can you give me your number? And then when they have an issue related to that discussion, then they remember you. So that the point is that you shouldn't know just law. And you should also understand other issues in life, understand a bit of science. That's why they even say we are learned, and like I said, the law doesn't exist on its own. It exists in a context or within a context. And the law requires other elements for success in your career, and you need experience over time. Nobody says that you need to necessarily work for someone. You could build the experience starting with friends and family, but it's usually advisable for you to work in a firm where they have transactions in the area where you have interest. But I always tell people that there are no absolute rules in life. What works for someone may not work for someone else, but it's always good for you to also know what may have worked before. What are the key elements of being a lawyer? You'll be advising clients. And I always tell people, being a lawyer doesn't mean you necessarily need to go to court every day. One, it doesn't even mean you need to be a courtroom lawyer. Although I've heard interesting arguments that courtroom law prepares you for other aspects of law. That it's always a plus for you to do classroom courtroom law, even if it's for a year. I did courtroom law during before my NYC, because I think after call to bar, we didn't go to camp immediately. I think we were at home for 6 to 9 months. So I went to a law firm and I was in court I went to law. I was in court. I was in a law firm, and I went to court, and I think that was useful. Writing arguments, writing briefs, writing all sorts. It helped my writing skills, polish my writing skills, my ability to critically analyze, move from your premises to conclusion. But I always say that there are no absolute rules, even with that, or even at that. You know, so being a lawyer means you can go to court, means you could even work in corporate divisions of companies. You could work in legal departments. You can work with government. You can go into politics. You can go into diplomacy. So the truth is that being a lawyer doesn't necessarily mean you have to work in a law firm. That's the truth. I'd be completely honest. Be completely honest with you. You don't necessarily need to work in a law firm as a lawyer. You could work elsewhere. You could do several other things. For you to thrive, and it goes back to my first point, you must understand the law and you must understand those other things. In school, a number of points are critical. Your grades. Try your very best to get a 2-1, or now a first class is quite fashionable. And you see a number of people get that in law school. Even this year, I understand there were around 200 people. Maybe I'm mistaken, or 70 or something. I'm not sure. I understand that there were a lot of first classes and a lot of 2-1s. So you want to do your bit. So if there are a lot of first classes and 2-1s, you know that the top firms, and I regard my firm as the top firm. It's definitely a top firm. It might not be one of the biggest, but it's a top firm. Many of the top firms will then want to shortlist only people who make a first class or a 2-1. So right from school, it's crucial. I don't think exams are necessarily the true test of knowledge, but unfortunately, there are probably no other ways to test knowledge. So the top firms want to shortlist only people who made first class, in some cases, first class and 2-1s. So it gets increasingly difficult for people who make two 2s. But of course, making a 2-2 doesn't mean that's the end of your life or that's the end of the world. Some of the 2-2s end up employing people who went to Harvard, Cambridge, and the likes, because some of them now take the plunge. They'll say, oh, no one is employing me. I'm going to be an employer of labor. And at the end of the day, there are firms you know whose partners did that. I wouldn't want to mention names so that I don't cause controversy. But there are a number of firms I am aware of that their partners did that. Okay, no one's going to give me a great job, so I might as well start my job. Today, they employ people who went to Harvard, who went to Cambridge, who made first class, and some would even say we take only first class, and some went to Cambridge, or we take only 2-1 in very extreme cases, actually. You know, so it's school, let no one deceive you. Grades are very important. So grades are really important, but that's not the end. You need to be able to critically analyze things. You know, when you have, and I say to people, the smart lawyer is not the lawyer who knows the general rule. The smart lawyer is the lawyer who knows the exceptions. The smart lawyer is the lawyer who solves problems. So you need to, apart from getting good grades, you need to develop your problem-solving skills. I always say to people that a country like Nigeria is a country where you have a lot of opportunities. Why? The more problems you can solve, first, the more problems there are, the more opportunities to solve problems. And the more problems you can solve, the more money you can make. You know, people pay people for solving problems. You know, I've been on transactions where people earn $1 million, where people earn $1.5 million, $2 million. You hear huge sums for transactions. You hear huge sums for another area that you hear a lot of numbers going around is international arbitration. You know, so it's crucial, it's critical that from the beginning you start doing all of this. And another thing that you may consider, and is getting increasingly important, more and more people do it. It wasn't that popular many years ago, but more people do it now. So make sure you don't miss the boat. And that thing is internships. Whilst you are in school, I know people, you know, you go for an internship, you excel, the law firm is probably likely to have your name down. When you then come back that you want to work with them, oh, this guy, he excelled. They may not necessarily make you go through the rigors of an interview because they've seen firsthand what you can do. So internships are increasingly important. So I'm thinking generally now, then I'll go to what you do before school, before you get your job, whilst in the job to rise pretty quickly. Issues around JAPA, whether it's a good or a bad thing, it's good and or bad, depending on how you see it and what value you take out of it. But I'm just talking generally for now. Now, Also, I always say to people who say, oh, I like fintech, I like tech. You cannot be, I don't know how successful you can be in the long run if you limit yourself to something without understanding other areas of the law. And I'll explain what I mean. You can't say you're an oil and gas lawyer, a fintech lawyer, and all you know are laws that relate to that area. Someone might want to do energy financing. It's energy, but there's financing. So as a lawyer doing energy, you must understand financing. You must understand corporate. If you're going to be a corporate lawyer, everyone must understand CAMA. Corporate law first starts from you understanding company law and understanding issues relating to corporate issues, you know, because if you're an energy lawyer, you're first a commercial lawyer who specialized in energy. If you're a fintech lawyer, you're probably a commercial lawyer specializing in technology or financial technology or whatever it is. So don't limit yourself to fintech laws. Understand how financing, how you can raise financing for startups, because many fintech companies are startups. So if you know fintech, but you don't understand financing, you can't advise on financing a startup, then your knowledge, your ability will be limited. Your knowledge and ability will be limited. You understand? So it's very, very crucial that you do that. Your knowledge is going to be limited. You know, you don't want a situation where you're doing an oil and gas transaction and there's land law and you don't understand the issue. So it's good to be around there. I always tell people, don't start specializing in your first year. You can know your area of interest, but it's good that you do other things so that as you do those other things, you can then begin to specialize in your second, third, fourth, maybe third, fourth, fifth year. And if you have the capacity, you can do much more. You can continue to do other areas of the law. You understand? You can continue to multitask. You can continue to support other practice areas so that you are not limited in your knowledge. You are not limited in your level of knowledge and contribution to your firm. So those are things you need to take on board when you begin to work as a lawyer. Sorry, give me a moment. Yeah, Shola, one or two people are interested in logging in. For some reason, they can't. Maybe, I don't know what your system is. Of course, you want to avoid what happened the last time. I just thought to let you know, I've gotten a number of mails saying they're trying to log in. Maybe if you send me the link via WhatsApp, I can then send to one or two of them. Thank you. Okay. You know, so I also tell people, it's a good thing to do your master's, but I think master's is specialization. So if you go for your master's immediately after NYSC, what if you don't want to specialize in that area? If you go and do finance and you don't want to, and you find out after 3 or 4 years that you want to do oil and gas, maybe in your master's, if you can do a mix, a potpourri of, say, finance, a bit of energy, a bit of something else, maybe that would also work. But if you want extreme specialization, I always tell people to wait till the 2nd or 3rd year when they have a sense of the area they are really, really interested in. I started by first liking company law, and subsequently I wanted to be company secretary. By my 2nd year, I started liking oil and gas. I liked oil and gas in school, and I excelled. I think I got extremely high grades, 90s in oil and gas, you know. But I for some reason I wanted company law. I didn't even want to work in a law firm. I thought working in a law firm was poverty. But someone told me, there were a few firms that paid really well. That I've heard about this firm and I heard about this firm, you know. And I'm sure you know those firms. And I was like, I never heard about one of them. And I sent my CV and I got that job. And since then, I didn't look back. And I started enjoying oil and gas. So I did my master's in my 2nd year or 3rd year as a lawyer. 2nd or 3rd year as a lawyer. I think, yeah, my 3rd year as a lawyer. So there was NYSC. There was a year after NYSC. It was a year after that year that I did my master's. So I think it's good to wait a bit. A year, 2, 3 years. And also, if you want to come back, you want to show value to your current employer so that they are the ones even asking that you take a study leave rather than resigning, so that you are rest assured you have a job waiting for you. Because a lot of people are doing masters, even PhD now, that after that, you may even not find the kind of job you want. So you don't want to live where you work without first showing value, showing them that you have capacity and competence, so that when you come back, they are willing to take you back. So I think that's crucial. So you need to develop your interest, expertise. You want to do litigation, commercial transactions. Some firms let you go around. you be in litigation, particularly your first year or first 2 years. You go to different practice areas and so that you learn. There's oil and gas. I'll just run through areas. There's oil and gas, there's litigation, there's commercial transactions generally, there's banking and finance, there's immigration, corporate immigration in particular, there's maritime, there's power, there's environmental law, there's mergers and acquisition, there's financial technology, fintech, there's criminal law, there's aviation, there's human rights, there's privacy law now, there's intellectual property. Now, I always say to people, you will be financially very settled if you are top 1% of your area of practice. People will always come and meet you if you are top 1%. So your strategy should be that you should work so hard so that in your generation, for your area of practice, you are top 1%. Maybe top 5% is fair. But if you really, really want to be assured of success, ensure that you are top 1%. So if there are 1,000 lawyers in your area of practice, make sure you are amongst the top 10. Maybe if there are less, you can be top 5%. But if there are few people, you have to be. If there are more people, you can be top 5%. If there are few people, I don't know, depending on how you look at it, But just ensure that you are between 1 to 5%, if possible 1%. Maybe in other cases it can be 5%, because there are always very few people at the top, and they are the ones that enjoy all of it. You'll be shocked. A lot of people now say that there isn't so much money in litigation, but I assure you that there are lawyers who charge $2 million, $3 million, $500 million, $1 billion on election petition, on specialized litigation. You understand? So if you want to be successful financially, you have to ensure that you join that group of top 1%, top 5% at the very least. So that's another thing you need to take into consideration if you want to remain a lawyer. And like I said, you don't need to necessarily work in a law firm if you think you are better off in-house. But the challenge also at times with in-house is if you start being in-house and you don't build enough capacity very quickly, when they need a head of legal, they're going to go and take your mate from a law firm and it's going to be your boss. That's something you need to think about very well when you decide to go in-house. Unless you know how you can work hard to build capacity on your own, even if the company or the legal department isn't very busy. So that's something very important. One skill you need is negotiation skill. See, we all sell something. Whether you're a lawyer, an engineer, an accountant, you all need to be able to convince someone to give you work. Whether you write, whether you speak, whether you do whatever it is that you do, you are negotiating something, you are selling yourself. So you need to be able to write well, you need to be able to speak convincingly. Those are two things you need to do. That gets your foot in the door. Apart from your grades, like I mentioned, you go to a bar, you go somewhere, you're analyzing critically. Of course, you're careful. You have to be emotionally intelligent. If your client or your prospective boss is a Milocom, you can't be saying, oh, Tinubu is a thief, Tinubu is corrupt. You can't be saying that. You're already putting that person off. So you need to be emotionally intelligent. We are humans. Yes, once in a while, even I get emotional. We are humans, but you still need to be emotionally intelligent. I won't go to somewhere where my client, a high-paying client in particular, I know supports a particular candidate, and I'm going to be pulling that or dragging that client in the mud, because the client may have dragging that client's preferred candidate in the mud, because that client's preferred candidate may as well be the one paying even your own bills indirectly. So you have to be emotionally intelligent. So these are just general comments before I now go into more specific. You need your research skills are very crucial, because that's one of the things you do first as a lawyer, as a young lawyer. They'll tell you, oh, I want to write this opinion. Can you research for me what the case law is? Your research skills, you need to work extremely hard. I always tell to people, and one of my partners, Mr. Doyafun, would say that in your first 5 years, you kill yourself. And it's true. It's not literally killing yourself, but it's about giving your all, putting your all in it. Because after 5 years, you may or may not become unemployable, particularly for the level you are at. At times, you meet people, they are 20 years at the bar, they are 15 years at the bar. But there are people who are 3 or 4 years at the bar in leading firms who know much, much more than they do in their own area of practice. So it's important that you put your best in it, at least first starting from your first 5 years. You need to know what know cases, understand principles of law, all those things they taught in school, particularly rules of interpretation of statutes, of contracts. Very, very crucial. I still use them when I write opinions. And at times, clients love those opinions. You know, you must be able to gather facts and data. You must be able to interpret. You must be able to analyze data. You must be able to formulate questions. I was at an international arbitration earlier this week, last week and early this week as an expert witness. And I supported the lawyers who were cross-examining with questions that they found very useful and was able to damage the case of the counterparty. So, you know, those are things you need to do. You need to be able to research. You need to be able to formulate questions. You need to be able to organize your data and organize your information. You need to have brilliant presentation skills. You need to know how to use Microsoft Word. You need to, if you're a non-starter, you need to be able to know how to use Excel sheet to an extent. You need more so to be able to use this presentation app. Now I forget what it's called.
PowerPoint.
Yeah, PowerPoint. I use it every day, you know, every time. Thank you very much. You need to be able to use PowerPoint. Those are very, very, very basic or you're a non-starter. Even when you go for internship, I can't use all of those. You're a non-starter. So that's very crucial. Writing skills too. Your spelling, your punctuation, your grammar, your use of connectors, your vocabulary, your coherence in writing, in analyzing, your conclusions. You must be able to reach a logical conclusion from your premises. And all of this, I have a very good friend. He grew up in the village, never speaking English. If you hear the guy speak today, he's one of the best spoken people I've heard. Now, what did he do? He developed himself by himself. In his first 9 years, in fact, he used to be one of the band boys of a Fuji musician in Abeokuta. So you can understand, you know. But today, he's schooled in Harvard. He went to Ife, schooled in Harvard. You know, he speaks very good English because you can develop yourself. I always say to people, don't let your growing up damage your future because you can always develop yourself. Many times when you say, oh, someone was born into a rich home and all of that, it's accident of birth. You can always, and those things you have choices over are usually more influential in your life in the long run. Your spouse, your friends, your grades are hugely a function of what you do, you know? So those are crucial things. Now, the question is, what is your selling point also? What value add do you have? You know, the guys who want to employ you, what are they buying in quotes? Is it that you can draft? Is it that you know how to review? Is it that your research skills are excellent? Is it that you can speak and even speaking more than one language is value adding now? Because a lot of Nigerian clients are going abroad. They're going to French territories to invest. They'll ask you every now and then we get it in our firm. Oh, do you have someone who speaks French? Do you have someone who speaks Spanish? You know, that's very crucial. If you, in any way you can add those valuable non-law things to your areas of practice, you understand? Those are things you need to take into consideration. Things you that could be useful for you. Other things, networking. You need to build alliances. You need to introduce yourself. Do not go anywhere without taking your business card. I make that mistake every now and then, you know. But it's bad practice. You go anywhere, you don't have your business card. Meet new people. Your friends shouldn't be only lawyers. Your friends should be engineers, doctors, accountants, business people, administrators, because those are guys that are likely to give you work. No lawyer is likely to give you their own work unless they are in-house lawyers. Then those should be your friends, in-house lawyers. You build your network, you know, senior and contemporary colleagues, you have mentors. And of course, mentorship shouldn't be parasitic. It should be symbiotic. You know, you should also be relevant to that person, or else the person is going to feel bored, feel tired. You know, don't go on asking your mentor to give you money. You know, render service, render help, provide useful information to your mentor. And I always say to people, everyone likes gifts. Give gifts to your mentors. Give gifts to people. You know a trick. People who are richer than you that you give gifts to, they're going to give you much more in value than that gift. Not necessarily gift or money. Whether it's information, whether it's dropping your name somewhere. You know, there are people who, when decisions are taken, will be there. You won't be there when decisions are taken about your life. But there are people who are going to be there. It's not enough to be intelligent or to be hardworking. Your attitude to life, your attitude are very, very crucial. If you have a bad attitude, people are going to say, oh, when they're going to make a decision and there are 2 people or 3 people, one has a brilliant attitude, he's also very good at hardworking, he's say 90%. The other person is 95%, but bad attitude. They're going to choose the person who is 90%, but it's good attitude. Because at a particular level in management, it's soft skills, it's emotional intelligence beyond what you can do, because you can always employ people to do the work. So attitude is always very crucial also. Your attitude, your capacity, you know, your visibility. Do you write articles? I write almost every month. I write 1 or 2 articles almost every month. In the last 10 years, I've not written for this month. I wrote for November, I wrote for October. I think I missed 1 month. In the entire year, maybe I've missed 1 month or 2. I'm going to write this week also for December. You write. I've gotten transactions where someone sees something I've written and oh, they have a transaction similar. Can the firm advise them? You know, I've gotten money from, and I tell people this story. In 2013, my wife was going to give birth to our 2nd child. And I was working in a good firm where they paid reasonably well. However, you know, I had to rent, I had to spend a lot of money, and I didn't have enough. And someone just reached out from me from one of the international oil companies. I first thought it was fraud, that I wrote an article 2 years before or whatever, 8 months before, I can't remember. And they needed me to update that article. They had an issue and they needed like an expert opinion. And they paid me 4,000 euros in 2013. And they just told me, they said, oh, where were you? I said, oh, at that time I was in Canada. My wife was going to put to bed. Remember, I said, I did my master's in Canada, and every now and then I do visit, particularly when it's time for my wife to put to bed. So I was in Canada, and they said, oh, where was I? I said I was in Canada for a few weeks before going back to work. They said, oh, we're going to send you a document. Present it at any bank, and they'll give you 4,000 euros. Looked like a joke to me. Looked like fraud, but they did. I got the money. I wrote the opinion, and I got the money. You know, so if you don't market, if you don't blow your trumpet, no one will for you. You know, so the more you learn, the more you write, the more you know, the more you learn. And I'll tell you why. When you want to write, you don't want to write wrong information. You don't want to do wrong analysis. So you'd have done your research. And writing means you research. So people who write research a lot. I research a lot because I write quite a bit. You know, emotional intelligence, I'd mentioned this. Mentorship, I'd mentioned this. Grit. Grit is very, very important. I should have, if I was doing a presentation, I'd have shown you a video. I listened to Michael, I'm trying to remember his name. There is this program, I can't remember. I haven't listened in a while. They invite people to come and speak. They do the Nigerian version too. They invite leading people to come and speak. And there's this very successful man. He said the 7 rules of success. I can't remember the name of that program. You see it on YouTube very often. And he said one of those secrets is mothers. Mothers push us. Mothers teach us to be gritty. There's no way you can be successful without grit. I always tell people a story about being on a plane, and I think it was one of the few times Dangote flew commercially. I think it was flying first class. I think I was in business class, and I just saw that. I realized that there was someone reading. Was it Dangote or was it Bengo Yebode? I can't remember, one of the two, or maybe I've flown at different times. And the light in the business class cabin was on throughout. And they wouldn't let you go, but I mean, you could find your way there somewhat. They don't let economy come to business. They don't let business go to first class. And he was walking throughout. Same for Bengo Yebode or Alukono Yebode. So grit, hard work. There are no substitutes for hard work. Maybe the substitute for hard work is smart work, but it's a combination, and smart work means there's still work in it. So you're working hard, but you're being smart about it. Okay, so you need to be gritty. Grit is hard work, not giving up. Extra hours. If you need not to sleep overnight to get something done, you know. And the thing about hard work is hard work, good work. The reward is more work. Particularly when now remember I'm speaking to young lawyers. The more good quality work you do, the more your seniors want to give you work. And the more work they give you, the more knowledge, the smarter, the better you become. And with time, if you say you want to leave, they are begging you, they're cajoling you, they're asking you that they will increase your salary. They're telling you that you are 4 years at the bar, but they want to make you an executive associate. They're telling you are 5 years at the bar, they want to make you a senior associate. You know, that's the value, cold water. That's the value for better cup, please. That's the value for hard work. That's the value for grit. You understand? You also need to evolve from time to time. You need to improve the quality of your writing. You need to continue to develop yourself. I tell people that they're good, they're few doesn't mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. When there are 100,000, if there are 2,000 firms and 100 to 200 do that, that would be a few still. A few firms send their people for a lot of trainings, my firm being one of those. And of course, I'm a partner with Bloomfield, in case you don't know. But I always still tell people that it's not sufficient that your firm sends you for training. You also need to develop yourself. You spend your own money. There are times I go for training, particularly in the past, with my own money, on my own resources. I don't necessarily wait for the firm to develop me, to spend money. So I have to take a glass of water, sorry. So you need to continue to develop yourself. You can also even expand your area of practice. You know, if you are doing, for example, if you're an energy lawyer, because of the market, the depth of the market in Nigeria it still requires a lot of deepening. You can't just be an oil and gas lawyer, particularly when you are still young. That might not be sufficient for you to pay your bills. If you're an energy lawyer, you want to be an oil and gas, power, renewables, even no financing. You know, you need to continue to evolve. You need to even continue to expand your area of practice. If your area of practice is one broad area, within that area, you need to know much more than just a sub-unit. You even now with energy transition, you even need to know more around renewable, more around hydrogen if you're an energy lawyer. You understand? Those are very important things you need to take into consideration. Now, you need to understand the business of your client. I always tell people that clients want solution providers. They don't want a lawyer telling them section something, say something, section something. No, that's not what they are looking for. They have a problem and they're looking for someone who is going to solve that problem for them. Find a solution for them. That's all clients look for. Clients are not looking for someone who can write very brilliantly. They are looking for someone who can solve their problems seamlessly for them. And you must understand that law is a business. When you sit down and think, when my firm pays my salary, how do they generate income? How much of this income did I contribute to directly? And how substantially did I contribute to it? Sit down, find out what's your wage bill in your office, and what's your contribution. Otherwise, imagine that you don't have clients. How do your employers pay your salary? How do the partners pay your salary? That's important. You must also be commercially aware. You must have commercial awareness when you do deals. What are the values you can bring to your office? You understand when there's a deal. How can you get more out of the client? Still get rendering services to the client. What more can you do? You need to respect people, respect your clients, respect your colleagues, respect your seniors. You understand? Respect lawyers on the other side. Integrity is also very crucial, and you must see law as a profitable and a profit-oriented business. Yes, there'll be those free transaction, what they call them, free cases you do, there'll be all of those, but overall, the bottom line does matter, or else, you can't pay salaries, you can't have your own building, you can't do so many things. So law is a business at the end of the day. So those are my general thoughts, in no particular order. Now, I'll speak to a number of issues. If you are looking for a job, a few things you need to do as a young lawyer. One, before you even get to that point, try your best to get good grades. Excellent grades, one. Two, prepare a very good resume. Such that I've heard people say that people decide in in less than a minute whether or not they are going to call someone for an interview. So you must make your resume attractive. Third, try your best to attend internships while still in school. And give your best when you attend those internships. You know, all those strikes, 8-month strikes, spend 6 months out of the 8 months doing internships. And of course, the remaining 3 months reading for the next term or next session. That's what I used to do in school. I'll read ahead. You know, attend internships, then build relationships. Those are things, ways in terms of when you're looking for a job. Also, be polite. You never really know whether the person you're speaking to rudely is the person you're going to meet next week at an interview. And you've already rubbed off negatively on them. These are things you first need to take into consideration before you even get the job. From your grades to being polite, to being emotionally intelligent, because you never really know. Even in traffic, you know, do not start yelling. You never know whether who you're yelling at is a person who's going to be interviewing the next time. Also do not just go through school. Ensure that school goes through you. Those are things that would help you. Now, when you get the job, and you know, especially if you don't have good grades, at times write partners, write interesting messages. Do not give up. Continue to disturb them. And I told you a story of a young man who did that for me. Initially, I didn't pay attention. But with time, I started to pay attention. Those things work. I mean, they don't work all the time, but you can give it a shot. Just make sure that your cover letter is very interesting, well written. You know, another thing I see a lot of people do now, you're sending your CV to XYZ law firm, you copy 50 other firms. Why? People are going to see you as a joker, as someone who is not smart, as someone who is emotionally unintelligent. I don't know if you understand what I mean. You want to send your CV to Bloomfield, you now copy ABC law firm, FYZ law firm, W law firm. No, you don't do that. If you're sending it means that you're not someone who pays attention to detail. I've had to send emails to 1 or 2 people like that in the past and tell them that I don't think this is good. No one will want to invite you, unless, of course, your CV is outside this world. Maybe you made the first class in Harvard, made the first class in Cambridge. You know, you've worked in Clifford Chance, White and Case, maybe. But other than that, no one's going to even want to invite you. They'll say this person doesn't pay attention to detail. This person is not even a smart or sensible person. So when you send your CVs, do not copy everybody in the world. Send to the particular law firm. Take your time. You're going to send your CV to 20 law firms. Send it to them individually. Do not send a bulk message to several people. That's a mistake I see a lot of people doing. Now, when you get into the firm, you must immerse yourself. You must work extremely hard. You must give it your best, and you must ensure that the people who matter notice you and notice your hard work. For a number of reasons. One, a few firms, including ours, pay bonuses at the end of the year, so the second month in the new year. So you want to ensure that people who know that you work that see it. Two, you want to be respectful to your seniors, because some seniors are the ones, some partners do not work with very young people directly. It's what the seniors tell them that they take. So if you rub up negatively on your seniors, it may rub up negatively on your appraisal. So you have to be careful. You must also give your best. Once you made a mistake and you are corrected, ensure you don't make the same mistake again. That's how they know you are learning. Otherwise, they think you are just a joker. You're not learning. You're not giving it your best. You know, that's another thing you need to take into consideration when you are in a law firm and when you want to grow. Thirdly, you must go beyond the call of duty. You must do beyond the minimal. You must do much more than is expected of you, and you must give your all. Because when you do more than the minimum, people are more minded to give you more work. They see value in you, they see value in what you do. But if you do only the minimum, then no one's going to think that you're adding value. And they'll just want to only give you work when there isn't anybody else to do it. I think that's another thing you need to get into consideration. And you continue to do your very best. You work smart, you work hard, you do your research. You you try your best in developing your writing skills so that you write excellently well. Those are things that are very important. And when there are discussions in your WhatsApp group, contribute brilliantly. If you contribute brilliantly, people are going to notice you, and that's what happens. It goes round. If someone says, oh, this person is brilliant, this person is hardworking, another senior is going to say, oh, let me try this person out. Let me give this person work, But if nobody notices you, then it could be a problem for you at the end of the day. That's one thing you need to also take into consideration when you join any firm. And I say to people, when you want to join certain firms and you don't get in, go to other firms that are not as big, but are doing a lot of transactions in one or two areas you might be interested in. Why do I say this? If you go to a firm not as known or even well known in a particular area, but not a very big firm, by the time you now want to go into that big firm, you already have a lot of transactions under your belt. So that's crucial and that's critical to your development. So don't be gung-ho on, if I don't get into ABC firm, that's the end. And you keep trying for 5 years and not working. You go to a lesser known firm, but it's known to do transactions. You also ask your friends in those firms, oh, do they do deals? What sort of deals do they do? What sort of environment is it? You ask questions, So those are questions, those are things you need to take into consideration as you get into newer firms and as you want to grow. And when you can't get into the firm you want, haven't tried all your best, go to less known firms or firms not as big. You'll be shocked that some of the smaller firms even pay more than the bigger firms. And some of the bigger firms are already top heavy. And when you're top heavy, it's more difficult for you to make partner. Even when you make partner, it may not be as commercially interesting as it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago, before the firm became really bad and big, rather, and had 15 partners or 20 partners or 12 partners. There's always value at times, starting with a much smaller firm and even becoming partner there, because it's likely to be more profitable. Could be, may not be. I mean, like I said, there aren't any absolute rules in life. Now, choosing between starting your own practice or going alone, I mean, I think the choice is yours, actually. Now, people who started their own practice and now the practices have grown to be huge practices. Some started as one-man firms and have become partnerships. And those firms are excelling. They're doing extremely well. So nothing says you can't do that. But there's always value working in a firm where you can learn. But when you start your own practice, that means you need to start with family and friends. I always tell people that businesses survive when friends and family pay for business, pay for services. Do not start your firm and render free services to family and friends, especially if they are doing business, because they are going to be making money. Why do they want to keep you impoverished if they are going to be making money? So that's crucial. That's critical to your life and to your well-being. Ultimately, so ensure that even if you're going to be rendering services and you're starting your own firm, people will pay for your service. Friends and family, easiest apples to pluck. Start with your friends, start with your family. 1. 2, you can have a bigger firm that you have mentors in. That when you even have transactions you cannot do alone, you can work with them whilst you develop and grow capacity. That's another thing you can do. And you can start with 1 or 2 practices, 1 or 2 areas. And as you grow and develop, you can get 1 or 2 new partners. You can expand your practice. You understand? No one says that being a lawyer means you should remain not profitable, So that's one thing about starting your own practice. It's not usually easy, but if you keep at it and fortune smiles at you, you'd be glad you did. Look for niche areas. Look for areas where you don't have a lot of people. Everybody is running to fintech. You don't necessarily need to join them. Unless, of course, you have value. There's some value nobody else has that you're going to give to the market, Yeah, so nothing says you can't start your own firm. Then the issue of JAPA is neither here nor there. Depending on how you look at it, it could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. Some people at mid-level, at senior level, could be a challenge, particularly if you are not going to start as a year 1 associate after passing their BER exams. And I've been in conversations with people recently, and amongst other professionals, lawyers find it the most difficult particularly in countries like Canada, I hear, and in the US. Of course, some will make it, but at times those who stay and grind end up ultimately becoming even more fulfilled. Now, the issue is also fulfillment. End up becoming more fulfilled than the people who japa. Nothing says you shouldn't. I wouldn't say you shouldn't, but the truth is that ultimately, this is not the first. It's because, people don't know that people have always japped from Nigeria. Social media is what's bringing it out now. I remember, was it in the, I was born in the 80s, 1980s. So I wouldn't say I knew a lot in the 90s. But I remember in the 90s too, there was this wave of japa in the early 90s, 1991, 92. I know a story, and I wouldn't mention names, of someone who had japped. He was not coming back. This was after like 20 years. He was not coming back. And I understand it was one of my colleagues who was like the head of the immigration practice, not in the firm where I work many years ago, one of the top firms I'd worked. And he said when the guy was coming down from the plane, the guy was all shoulders up and all of that. When he first saw the partner's Range Rover, one of the soldiers first went down from his Bugatti. His Buga became half Buga when he first saw the guy's car. When he now got to the guy's house, it was like, wow, I went to waste my time in London, was the first thing he said. Because that guy, who you all know, but I won't mention his name, had now become a very successful lawyer, because when everybody else was jackpotting, he stayed. Some of them would have made partner, but there are partners and their partners abroad. Most Nigerians who make partner will never be equity partners. So it really depends on what you want. So it's a good thing, but it depends on how you play your game. It depends on, and the funny thing, many of them still look back. You hear, when you go out, you hear, I hear this person has done this, I hear this person is doing really well. Many of them cannot really leave Nigeria. That thing is also a challenge. So jackpot if you must, but if just make sure you make up your mind that you're not going to keep looking back. Whatever the challenges are, you're going to keep looking forward. But those of us that decide to stay, put your best, follow some of these rules. There are no absolute rules in life. Do some of these things, give it your best, let people know you, be an expert, be top 1% in your area of practice. I assure you that you'll be fulfilled, you'll be financially fine. That's primarily, those are primarily my thoughts, unless you've got specific questions. And I hope I've tried addressing many of the things that may be on your mind. So I guess we can't take questions, but I'll hand it over to the moderator. Thank you, Shola, for this opportunity.
Yes. Thank you so much, sir. Well, it's been a very insightful session. Thank you so much, sir. I took notes, and my note is about 2 pages. Like I've been writing all the while. Thank you so very much, sir. So now we'll be opening the floor for questions. So if you have questions, please.
Sorry, you're muted. You're muted.
A way that is completely out from the.
Okay, can we all hear me now?
Many people are living their life.
Yes, we can hear you now.
In the way.
Okay. Okay, so I was saying that the session has been very insightful, and thank you so much, Dr. Oni, for sharing your experiences, your insights, and practical, things that you have done to excel in legal practice. Now, I would be opening the floor for questions. If you have questions, please, you can unmute. You can unmute and ask your question. Please mention your year at the bar before your name and your year at the bar. Then you ask your question. Thank you very much. Anybody with a question?
Are you sure people can unmute?
Yes, they can. Okay, I can. Okay, you can. You can unmute. Yes. Or you can ask me to unmute you. Does anybody have a question? Or you can type your question in the chat box. If you have a question, you can indicate And you can also type your question in the chat box. Okay, so Doctor, I actually have a question myself. I have a question. Can I go ahead?
Please go ahead. I'm listening. I'm all ears.
Okay. Yes, sir. My question is around the Japa syndrome, rather, if we call it the Japa syndrome. Yes. So on your own personal experience so far, is it ideal for somebody who was just called to back to travel, like to move to another country, or do you think that person should stay back for a while? That's my question, sir.
Okay, well, those are personal preferences, to be honest. However, I think it's easier for someone who is fresh at the bar to make a success of it and not feel like they are missing anything. Now, for someone who's already excelling here or doing reasonably well and who then just suddenly japas, someone who is younger, it's easier to just flow with the tide abroad. So yes, if that's what your preference is, by all means, japa. But if you see a future for yourself here, why not? But I always think it's easier for people who are younger than mid-level people, particularly who are excelling, to japa and go and start life all over. Unless, of course, they have a deal, which means they're not going to start life all over again. But most times, particularly countries people are going to, particularly Canada, that I know quite a bit about. Once you write the bar exams, you're a year one associate. Doesn't matter that you are 10 years at the bar in Nigeria. Unless there's something I don't know, but that's my experience. It's slightly different in the UK, particularly if you're a lateral hire of some sort. So yes, it's easier for people who are younger at the bar to japa. I think it's probably easier for people like that to flow with the tide over there. Thank you. I think a few people have questions in the chat. Thanks.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Abiodun Fadipe is asking, he said he's 2 years at the bar. Is it possible to have good grades but not good at practice? He's asking the question, sir.
Oh, yes. Practical. I've met a few people who people have complained about. I shared some of that sentiment, who probably even made first class. But in practice, I don't know. I'm not sure what the issue is. The issue is either that they got burnt out in school because they have put all their best into it and are now not able to do much in practice. I'm not sure what the challenge is. But yes, there are people who have good grades, but in practice don't quite cut it. Because practice is not school. Practice is a combination of law and even soft skills and grit and hard work and even office politics. It's a combination of so many things, you know. So if you can't rise above or in spite of all odds, then you may have good grades and not excel in practice. It's definitely possible. You may even make a first class and not excel in practice. Because if you're someone who then writes stories, they ask you a question, you are writing a thesis. Not everybody will like that. And if you're unlucky to have seniors who are not patient or who can mentor you and who just, you know, the more you condemn and criticize people, the more they tend to lose steam, the more they seem to lose some of their essence and lose confidence. So imagine you do a transaction for me and I criticize you heavily. This is bad. This is terrible. And you're sure you're a lawyer. Second time again, third time again, before you know it, the person loses interest. If the person doesn't leave the firm, and the person might lose their confidence. So at times it's a combination of not having the right people to mentor you and you not immediately removing the toga of law school or university. So it's possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. So I would unmute Mayon. Mayon Amosu, you have a question. Please, can you unmute and ask a question? Mayon Amosu.
Okay, so actually, I've sent it to the chat. Okay, so good afternoon, sir. Thank you very much, sir. So how can one develop your drafting and writing skills, sir? I tend to be struggling with it. I got a new job of recent, and my senior felt I wasn't doing well with my drafting and writing skills, and it's really, really a challenge for me, sir. So practical steps on how to write well, develop a good writing and drafting skills, sir. Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
good one. Thank you. And that's why we're here. Should be practical. One of the things you can do is to read what's been done before in that office or elsewhere. Read opinions. See how it flows. See how they write it. And begin to write independently. Write articles. Even if you don't publish them, even if you publish in only your own small circle, maybe your WhatsApp group or your school WhatsApp group or something. So the more you write, the more you know how to write. The more you research and put down your research, the more you know how to write. And read what other people have written. So reading what other people have written, particularly in your firm or another firm where you know people write well. I was in a firm and I was already a senior associate elsewhere. I was moving elsewhere. And I struggled a bit. What did I do? I picked, in terms of their own writing style, I picked some of their old articles. I had a chat with someone who was regarded as one of the best writers in that firm, and it helped me. I tried to copy their style a bit, and then I developed my own peculiar way, and it improved. And at some point, I thought I wrote some of the best opinions in that firm at that time. So it's not easy. You'd have to be determined to solve the problem, and practical steps will be reading what other people have written, continuing to read and write, and continuing to read what others have written and continuing to write articles and research. I think it's no other way. The more you read, the more you know, the more you have the ability to write well. So just pushing yourself. Maybe have a target of reading 2 well-written opinions every day rather. Find out who the guys that have been doing their best opinions are, past and present, guys who probably left, but the opinions they've written. Read those opinions. Try to write it in your own way and see what you can make of the issues, how you can write it and all of that. And then build confidence and know that the guys who do the best now didn't get there in one day. So that will help you psychologically. So it's both a psychological issue and a practical reality issue. So you need to grow confidence. Don't let whatever that senior says kill your confidence also. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Mr.
Good afternoon, sir. Yes, sir. Sir, my name is Femi Owade. I'm a fresh week, sir. I was called to the bar earlier this week. So, sir, my question
Congrats.
is that thank you very much, sir. So this period we are doing a lot of interviews looking for NYSC associate placement. So my question is that when partners interview us, what exactly are they looking for, sir, during interviews?
Oh,
thank you, sir.
Correct. Good question. First thing is, I think you started doing this late. We've already even hired, I think we hired 5 or 6 NYSC guys, between 5 and 8 NYSC guys already. Right. Once your law school, before your law school result, this is called to bar. I think many of them applied even before their law school results were out. Some we took, all the guys we took, we said, okay, we will confirm. We gave them, I think, provisional employment. And we said, when their law school results are out, we'll confirm their employment. I'm sure many of the top firms have already hired people. They might just be looking to hire 1 or 2 more, particularly. So some people will get jobs with 3 or 4 of the top 5, 6 firms, and they can only go to 1. So they're probably looking for replacements now. So I think you did it quite late. That's my view. I might be partly wrong. Maybe I'm looking at it from my own small lens. That's 1. 2, what do we look out for? We look out for someone who sounds like they're teachable, yet will add value, yet will work within our culture, will be well placed within our culture. The way the person speaks, the person's attitude, is the person polite when you first start the interview? Does the person's written stuff in their CV? Can they defend those things in their CV? See, my view, it's better to write only 5 things in your CV that you can defend. Because the funny thing is that someone might have done something, one of the partners might be an expert in that thing you've written, and he will not start asking you questions, and you cannot defend it. It becomes a problem. So write only what you can defend, or even if you write it, go and study it. 2, even you should do your research about the firm to know their culture. because when they're interviewing you, they're also sort of looking at culture. I don't know if you've noticed. At times, they let their HR person or their practice manager join their interviews because they want the person to assess you psychologically. So partners are looking at soft skills, technical ability. HR people are looking at soft skills, whether you work within their culture, whether you're someone that is teachable or impervious to knowledge. You know, someone called a lawyer that many, many years ago in the firm I used to work, impervious to knowledge. I never heard that word before then, you know. So you need to be, those are things they look out for. They want to be sure what this person wrote in their CV, which made us call the person can defend it. That's the first thing. 2, can the person work within our culture? 3, does this person look teachable? 4, is this person going to add value different from the 4,000 other people who graduated? Or is he amongst the top 1%, 2%, 5% marks who can add value to the office? Someone we want to retain, because most times people hire NYC to retain them. They're not hiring them to recycle them every year. Like we retained, I think we took 5 youth corpers last year and retained 3 or 4 of them, you know. So that's it. That's what they look out for. In some cases, they want to check whether you're exceptional. Once you're exceptional, they take you. So I hope I've answered your question reasonably
Yes,
well.
sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah. So the first thing is to defend what you wrote in your CV. And you stand behind it. Yeah. Next question, if any.
Any other person with a question? You can unmute and ask your question. Any other person? Yeah, Doctor, I also have another question, sir.
Okay.
Yes, this is actually from a friend. Okay, so for a lot of female lawyers, you know, you finish from law school, you work for a while, maybe for 5 years, then suddenly marriage happens, you start having kids. I think there's a challenge with a lot of female lawyers. I have a friend who was into very, very active practice. She was doing so well. Then marriage happened, you know, she had to slow down. And now there's this challenge of, you know, coming back into practice. So the challenge of, oh, am I now will I start going to court again? Will I start moving up and down? You know, after years of, she has taken like a break of about 10, 11 years of practice. So for such a person, sir, how do you think she can revamp that energy, or, you know, say she wants to come back into full practice, sir?
Yes, good question. I can use my, and I apologize if it affects anyone's sensibilities. I can use my wife as an example. Women tend to slow down at some point. Well, not all women, because you don't have a choice at times. You want to take care of kids and everything, but you can bounce back. My wife did. You just need to work 2 or 3 times as hard as the men. And I always have a sentiment for women. I know they have to give birth. I know they have to do a lot of things because, of course, I have sisters, I have a mother, I have a wife. So I understand that it's true. It's usually a challenge. That's why for me, I usually make exceptions for women in certain circumstances. So I know it's not easy, but it can be done. You just need to work extra hard. I don't know if you know, many of you will know this partner in BNI, Mrs. What's her name? Ayodele, the SAN. She'll tell you a story. She slowed down, and I know 1 or 2 of her kids who made first class because she sat down, she trained them. She slowed down for whether 10 years, whether 8 years, for a number of years. But when she got back, she bounced back, she made SAN. If someone has done it, it means it can be done. Especially if the person doesn't have 2 heads. Like, I don't think Mrs. Ayodele, unless she has another non-physical head. She did it successfully. That's someone I can also refer to outside of someone else that I know, like my wife. She slowed down for a few years, but she bounced back. You can't bounce back. It just means you need to work doubly hard. Now, it's also a question of who you married. Sorry to say, marriage can destroy women's careers, just the way it can men, but more women. Women are more susceptible. If you get married to a, and I don't know, marriage said a lot of very interesting stuff. I don't know, she was saying men are either lions, whether hyenas and something. Some men will support you, will push you, some will want to pull you down. Like, how can you be richer than me? Or how can I be able to buy a Range Rover and you can afford an S-Class? Some men can understand. So is it also the kind of man you marry? If you marry wrongly, it usually would affect you. It's difficult to not affect you. The exception is that it won't affect you. The rule is that it will affect you. So who did you marry? That person going to support you? Yes, even in the first, say 5-6 years, you slow down. After that 6 years, the person going to go all out to support you. I know a man who is an executive director in one of the top banks. He's the one who makes the kids hair. He's the one who takes them to school because the woman slowed down for like 10 years. Now the woman is back. Whether she's a partner in a top firm or something, and the man has slowed down. Now it's the man who is slowing down. He has maybe 5 years to retire, and he's slowed down already to now support the kids because the wife is now out there. The wife had slowed down earlier. So marriage is a relationship. Marriage is a partnership. But if you have a wrong partner, it's going to adversely affect you in the short term to the long term. So if you have the right spouse as a female, you'll be able to bounce back. But yes, if you want to not look back and regret about your children, you might have to slow down at some point. Slow down doesn't mean you will still not be working or you'll not be working at the highest level. But if men are fighting to be managing partner, you will probably not be in that race. You can be partner and you build, and you can always make, and there's someone who does something very interesting. Sorry, I like to mention names when it's positive. There's Mrs. Owoegbe. She'll tell you what she does. She'll still take care of her family at night when everybody has gone to bed. She'll come up and she'll do work for 3-4 hours. Mrs. Owoegbe of B&I. If there's a party to build relationship, if there's a party, she would have gone early in the morning. She will see the host, give the host money. She might not be able to attend the party, but she would have gone before the party starts. She'll get olopos who help cook. She'll take them there to help them in cooking. If it's a family event, those are things, there are ways around everything, you know. You can always find ways, and you always need a support system. My wife always has at least an average of 2 carers for the kids, you know, so that she can go on to do other things. So you need to build a support system around yourself as a woman. That's the only way it can work. Because you can't be the one that will go to Oshodi market, go to Mushi market, go and negotiate a deal, go and close a deal, go to London, all in the same. It's difficult. So you need a support system at home. Whether it's going to be your husband, whether it's going to be family, whether it's going to be extended family. Of course, you need to be careful. There's some video making the rounds on social media. I saw it just before this program. A lady had a maid who stole $11,000 from her safe. So you need to also be careful who you wrap with. You need to also have checks, mechanisms to check your support system, you know. Those are things you need. You always need a support system. It's difficult to achieve those things without a support system as a lady. So those are my own thoughts. So build a support system and build it well, extensively. Have, like my wife always say, have an option B and an option C. Have your option B, have your option C. Marry rightly from the beginning. If you're not married now, be careful who you marry. Once you see certain signs, love is not enough. I always tell people for marriage, love is not enough. Love is one of the constituents, but love alone is not enough, or else you will end up marrying wrongly. Then thirdly, you may need to work doubly as hard. So when you are there, when you are not there, they miss you. When you are there, they see your effect. So even when you are not there, they say, wow, if XYZ was there as a lady, this wouldn't have happened. So when you are there, they're giving you responsibility. When you have become partner, you can go on maternity leave. Nothing's going to happen. But before you make partner, you need to do whatever it takes to get there. You know, when you go on maternity leave as a partner, nobody can sack you now. You know. So once you get to the top, when you become an SAN, you just know that, okay, these 6 months, I won't make a lot of money. I won't go for international arbitration. You know, that's one area I've just opened my eyes to, and it's massive. What people charge for international arbitration, millions of dollars is what lawyers charge. You know. So it's crucial that you build support system and you grind. There's the grit, and you marry rightly, and you support your husband too, of course, so that when it's your turn, he supports you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Do we have any other person with a question? Any other person? You can unmute and ask your question. Okay. Okay, so nobody? Okay. I just want to go through. Yes, I want to recognize the presence of Dr. Kunle Obebe. He's also a managing partner with Bloomsfield Legal Practice. You're welcome, sir. Please, can you unmute, sir? We're glad to have you here, sir. You're welcome to, okay, you're welcome, sir. We appreciate you, sir. So I will go on to share with us a brief of what we have learned here today. So I remember Dr. Oni talked about networking. He talked about, meeting people, networking, respecting people. You must be able to use certain tools, that's Microsoft Office, PowerPoint. You must be able to make presentations. You must be coherent in your writing. I also remember he mentioned, that he was a columnist with Business Day, and that helped with his writing skills. So any of us can actually look for that opportunity. I know newspaper, press, anything press, media, they're always looking for opportunity, looking for people who are interested in these areas. So we can actually plug into that opportunity. We should build our alliance. We should meet new people I mentioned earlier, and have your mentor, have a mentor, build a therapeutic relationship and not a symbiotic one with your mentor. Don't always ask your mentor for money. Yes, so everyone, you can start to specialize. He also mentioned that you can start to specialize, later. Maybe in your first few years, you do not need to specialize, but when you get into maybe your fourth, fifth year, you can start to specialize. Then when you work with a law firm, try to find out what the problems are and find solutions. Develop your problem-solving skills. If you're into any area of practice, be very vast in that area, have a clear understanding of what applies in that area of practice. Be intelligent, be emotionally intelligent. He also talked about, if your boss is a Baptist, oh, sorry, I had to mention Baptist. Okay, if your boss is a Bats person, like a Bola Tinubu person, and you are working with that law firm, you must be emotionally intelligent to know that, to be able to handle such. So you don't go to work and start to, speak against, such issues. So you need to develop yourself, personally develop yourself. If your firm is not sending you for trainings, send yourself for trainings, find trainings, use your own money, and do not wait for your firm to develop you. You can develop yourself, expand your area of practice, expand your area of practice. If your area of practice is not financially viable, you are free to also expand. Understand that the business of law, that the law itself is a business. Find solution to your clients' problems. Be commercially aware, find ways you can get more out of your clients. If you have a client, that's client retention strategies, client retention skills, what you can do to keep your clients coming back to you. Respect people, see law as a profit-oriented business. Then he also talked about having good grades, have good grades. Prepare a good resume, let your resume be beautiful, make your resume attractive. Attend internships while you are in school. Like I remember when where I used to work, we had people come from University of Lagos, from schools also. They will be with us for a while. So attend internships, it gives you exposure, build relationships, be polite. You never know who you are speaking with. You could be speaking with somebody who is going to interview you tomorrow. So make time, be polite, make sure that your cover letter is attractive. Pay attention to details. And also, Doctor mentioned that if you're attaching your CV to a law firm, do not copy different law firms' while you're applying, send your CV individually to a particular law firm. If you're sending your CV to like 20 law firms at the same time, it shows that you do not pay attention to details and you do not really know what you want. So send to different law firms, immerse yourself. If you find a law firm to work with, immerse yourself in it, give it your best. Let the law firm know that you are there. Let them notice your hard work. Respect your seniors. Be respectful to your seniors. It will help with your appraisal. When you are corrected, don't make the same mistake. Try to avoid that mistake. It shows that you are learning. You must go beyond the call of duty. Do more than expected. Build your research, develop your writing skills. When you have discussions, contribute brilliantly on WhatsApp groups. Yes, Dr. Oni mentioned.
Many scribes. You that knows that thou shalt not commit.
Okay, sorry, I had to mute that person. Okay, so develop your writing skills, contribute brilliantly. If you're in a WhatsApp group, contribute brilliantly in that WhatsApp group. Go to, okay, there is always value, always offer value. Look for a niche and start to build in that area. Thank you so much, Dr. Oni. I've learned so much. I'm sure a lot of us have learned so much from today's session. Please, if you have any other questions, you can send us an email. I'm going to put up our email here. You can send us an email if you have questions for Dr. Oni. We can send those questions to Dr. Oni on your behalf. Okay, gmail.com, please pardon me, gmail.com. So thank you so much, everyone. We've come to the end of the session. I want to appreciate everyone for attending the session today. There would be a replay available. If you want to watch the replay, we would forward it and it will be sent to your emails. Thank you so very much. Thank you, Doctor. Please, hello, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yes, sir. Thank you so very much, sir. Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank
everyone.
you so much.
Yes, you're all welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Please don't forget to follow us on social media. You can follow us for subsequent sessions, Lawbox NG. You can follow us for subsequent sessions at Lawbox NG. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Yes. Okay, so we'll send the replay to you. Thank you so very much. We've come to the end of the meeting. Thank you.